Today we're gonna be looking at some Final Fantasy stuff. It turns out that we just saw a card like 24 hours ago or something like that, and that completes 20 cards that we've seen from this set, and we are exactly as we record this live on twitch.tv. Don't you wish you were here? Link in the description. But anyway, say hello to chat. That means that we are 1 week away from PAX. I think it's PAX, where they're going to be doing a Final Fantasy preview panel. So that means we should probably take stock of what we have and do a little ranking here, because I think that'll be fun. I am really looking forward to this set, and I'm not going to go into all the reasons why here. I'm just going to say I'm really looking forward to this set, so I want to talk about it like as much as possible. And I think we'll start by talking about what we've already seen. Now, we'll begin with the honorable mention, which is Jumbo Cactuar. Look, I know a lot of people are kind of excited about this card, and people have been kind of memeing about it since we first saw it, and I get why, but I actually think there's probably really fun commander combos with this 7 mana 1/7 plant, but whenever it attacks, it gets quad 9 still end of turn. So pretty good if you can give it trample, right? Or if you can somehow deal damage equal to its power to a thing. If you can fling it, that seems good. So there's a lot of like really memey ways to like make this work, but I love that. I think it's actually nasty. And like things that give you multiple attack steps, like if you're playing Anzrag, this is probably fun in the 99 where you attack with it twice in the same turn. But any overrun effects, or again, anything that gives all your creatures trample, just like bing bang, you got it. Throw a Rancor on this guy and get in for $1 million. Almost, there's some like 1% of $1 million. It's not even 1% of yeah, it is. Anyway, let's literally that. But one way or the other, this guy just seems cool, but I don't think he's going to affect too many formats too strongly. So I'll give him the HM here. But Summon Shiva's up next. This is not a bad Magic card, but it's mostly been previewed just to show us how summons may work. So these are sagas that are also creatures, so they have a power toughness, they can attack and block and all that. This one's 5 mana, it's a 4/5, and its first 2 chapters put a stun counter on a dude they control, and it taps it down too in case it's not yet. But on chapter 3, you get Diamond Dust, that's awesome. Draw a card for each tap creature your opponents control, so pretty cool, especially considering at least one of these dudes should still be tapped, right? So stun counter doesn't untap, stun counter doesn't untap, untaps doesn't untap. Okay, so yeah, should be like at least one guy. If I'm doing my math right, and I probably am not, but you'll probably draw 1 card off this at least, and if they, attacked or whatever, then you'll draw more. You could also put the effect on the stack and tap some more of their creatures down for some, maybe Flood Pit's Drowner or something like that, and draw more cards off of it. So this is a neat card, but I don't think it's a great card, But maybe I'm wrong. A 4/5 that affects the board twice and then draws cards is good value, but 5 mana is a bit steep. Garland, Knight of Cornelia, they did our dude wrong in this set, man. I love Garland. I love that they chose exactly this line for the flavor text. It's one of my favorite lines in any Final Fantasy. It's up there with "You Spoony Bard" in terms of like the meme lines in FF. But I really love this line. But in any case, this is 2 mana Rakdos for a 3/2 legendary human knight. Whenever you cast a non-creature, Surveil 1, you can pay 7 mana, some of it Rakdos, to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield transformed. Activate only as a sorcery. You get a 5/5 flyer. When it dies, it goes on the bottom of its owner's library. So cute that the idea is that we do it over and over and over. That's Final Fantasy 1. It repeats endlessly, right? And it also kind of calls to his ability in the last battle to heal himself over and over. I kind of like that. But he definitely felt like more than a 5/5 when he was doing that. You know what I mean? But I hate this boss fight like so much. Super duper tedious. Like even if your team is leveled all the way and you have like 2 fighters and a monk, it's going to take forever. But a 2 mana guy that has like a surveil ability on him. And it's not a bad one either. Cast a removal spell, Surveil 1, cast card draw spell for 1 mana, Surveil 1. Like, it's not the worst ability in the world, but I think it is actually slightly worse than it reads, to be honest. And 7 mana is just way too much to get a little 5/5 flyer. So I'm not like convinced that Garland is great in any format, but we'll see. He seems like he might be good in draft. Sepharoth, Planet's Heir, is up next, number like 17. I'm going to lose count. Don't worry, I will. Sepharoth is kind of like a massacre worm. He's 6 mana, 4 a blue and a black for a 4/4 legendary human avatar soldier with vigilance. When he enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 till end of turn. Stop me if you've heard that one. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Sepharoth gets a +1/+1 counter. Okay, so if he wraths and gets like 2 guys, then suddenly he's a 6/6. You still kind of paid 6 mana for a 6/6 vigilance. That's not super. It's not amazing. We already, I think, have like 2 Massacre Worm effects in Standard, unless we just have the one. We have literally Massacre Worm in Standard. Sees no play. So I don't really expect this to either. I do think it's cute to be able to play a Massacre Worm in your command zone. So like maybe that's a thing, especially if you have, something that cares about +1/+1 counters. Whenever a +1/+1 counter gets put on a dude you control, do a thing, like maybe that's something. But I'm just not like super convinced this is actually very powerful at 6 mana. It's one of the kind of like intro packy things, you know what I mean? So I don't expect it to be too powerful, but the other one that we've seen that's kind of intro packy is actually, I think, like deceptively good. We'll get to him later, but hopefully we see a lot more versions of Sepharoth, because this one's it's not burning down Nibelheim to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just not cutting the Aerith. But let's look at Tonberry. So sorry. Tonberry is a single black mana for a 2/1 Salamander Horror. Was that what he was the whole time? Salamander? He enters tapped with a stun counter, and he also has Chef's Knife. During your turn, he has First Strike and Death Touch. So he attacks like a Glissa when he finally gets to attack. So you play him on turn 1, he's not attacking till turn 3, which is usually the time the Savannah line starts sucking. But he sucks less because they really don't want to block him. They really do not. I'll just take the 2 for a couple of turns. Still might be okay in a mono black aggro deck, but I think we might have better options for 1 mana 2/1s. A Gas Guzzler is a pretty obvious one. We'll have Cecil in this set. We'll see him later. I think that's a very good card. As cute as I think Tonberry is, much as I love him, I'm just not sure that he's that great. But we'll see. I think that Chef's Knife is a really, really sick ability. But, if you play your Tonberry on turn 3, he's awful. That's not good. So let's move on to Tetus, Yuna's Guardian, number 16? Figure it out. This is a Bant colors for a 3/3 legendary human warrior. He's unplayable in Standard because he's a commander product guy. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can move a counter from a creature you control to a different creature you control. He also has Cheer whenever 1 or more creatures you control with counters on them deal damage to combat damage to a player. You may draw a card and Proliferate. Do this once per turn. So I think the Proliferate on this is probably the coolest part of the card. Moving counters around is a neat ability. Like, some people really like that. But I just don't know if there's enough on this guy. You draw an extra card every turn, and again, the Proliferate. You do the fun stuff with Proliferate is the whole draw here. So there's probably something I'm just not seeing, but I don't think he's super impressive as far as Bant commanders go. But 3 mana Bant Proliferate commander probably does get the juices flowing in the old brain ski, the old noggin for a lot of players. So if he's your jam, go ahead and spread him on your toast. You know what I mean? But Terra, Herald of Hope, is up next. This is Mardu colors for a 3/3 human wizard warrior with trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards and Terra gains flying to Leoti. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2 mana. When you do, return a creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So we've actually already got some commanders like this, I'm fairly certain, but it's good that it's Mardu. That's all I can really say. Again, I really hope we see other versions of Terra. It's cool that she mills you 2. I think you could do fun stuff with that. I do think she's not super guaranteed to get in and proc combat damage, right? So that kind of sucks. But flying helps. The flying helps. Either way, I just like 1 or 2 more versions of Terra, maybe a standard playable one. This is one of my favorite characters in the history of the whole Final Fantasy series. Really, really love Terra. So again, I kind of think they did her dirty, but I like Mardu. I like Reanimation, right? But So we'll keep it moving here to Sin, Spear as Punishment. This is 7 mana for Insultai for a 7/7 Leviathan Avatar with flying. When it enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your yard at random and then create a tap token that's a copy of it. If the exile card's a land, repeat this process. So I really hate the word random on this card, but also probably still ridiculous. Like probably does not matter that it says random. Actually, if you have a graveyard that's full of lands, it gets much better. Especially if you have nothing but lands. I have like 6 lands in my yard. It's basically guaranteed to ramp 6 when it comes into play. That's really good for landfall and just basic ramping. So cute right there, but also means that it goes well, with Lumbra in the 99, Aftermath Analyst, Suspended Reclamation, stuff like that. Even like Iridescent Vine Lasher and other things. So pretty cute stuff right there. But ultimately, even with the random, grabbing, who knows what out of your graveyard, you're still going to be getting a creature or an enchantment or a planeswalker or something back every turn. Works pretty well in the 99 of Muldrotha decks, and Muldrotha works well in the 99 of it for sure. So a lot of cool stuff, man. Works also Mimeoplasm in the 99. Like there's some fun stuff. Every time I say that, people want to be like, it's Mimoplasm. No, it's Mimeoplasm. It is. But anyway, Sin actually looks really cool as a commander. And this is kind of the first one that I've seen from this set that I thought like, oh, I want to brew around that. So he's a little bit ahead of some of the other legendaries that we've seen so far. Next is Gladiololis Amasitia from Final Fantasy 15, an underrated game. I'll come out and say it. I think that a lot of people do like FF15, but the people that don't like it, like really, really don't like it, but I think like Noctis is not great, but whatever. Like all of his friends are fun. It's like playing Persona 4 or whatever. Actually, that's not true. The main character in Persona 4 is probably the best main character in his series. But you know what I'm trying to say here. Gladiolus is really cool. In case you haven't seen this card yet, 6 mana, 4 and a red and a green for a 6/6 human warrior. When he enters, search your library for a land, put it on the battlefield tapped, shuffle up. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, another target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Neat. Okay, so note that this searches for a land. For any land. So 6 mana for land ramp on a body doesn't seem like amazing, right? But the fact that it goes and gets your cradle or whatever, it goes and gets your who cares is amazing. Does not have to be a basic, any old land you want it to be. Also, the landfall ability is deceptively good because it gives trample as well. And a lot of landfall decks are going to hit, 2-3 land drops a turn, sometimes even more. So, and it actually goes pretty well with another legendary creature, interestingly from Final Fantasy VIII, that we'll see later in this video. But one way or the other, I think this is actually kind of neat. For 6 mana, it's not like a rampaging Baloth, but I actually think it still goes in that slot. You play Baloth and this, and then suddenly like all the little 4/4s you're making with Baloths can be like 6/6 tramples you get in. So I think this is actually like kind of crazy in some ways. FF15 is very good. Kringle Bob, you're awesome. You're 100% right. I think that like there's a part towards the end of the game where it's not that the gameplay breaks down. It's just that you go through kind of a slog getting through one particular part. But the entire like open world and all that, and just like driving around, getting out of your car and fighting monsters and stuff, and hitting a random town from time to time. You're like, oh, what's going on here? It's fun. It's fun. I thought it was a fun game. But in any case, Gladiolus, I think, is actually a deceptively decent little uncommon from this set. I do. But Stiltskin Mughal Merchant is up next from Final Fantasy IX. A single white mana for a 1/2 legendary Mughal with lifelink. He doesn't have a job title, by the way, either. I think that's kind of neat. He could be like a merchant or something. Isn't that a job title? Citizen? I don't know. But lifelink. You can pay 2 and tap him to have an opponent gain control of another target permanent that you control. If they do, you draw a card. So we can play this in standard. This one will be standard playable. But I think the only thing you can really throw at them is like Demonic Pact. And that said, that's pretty good. It's not a bad option to have. But in Commander, I've already seen at least one article in a few EDH rec piles with Stiltskin. As far as mono white goes, there's some neat stuff you can throw at them, but really not enough. You're mostly working with like cursed artifacts, you know what I mean, that you want to give to your opponent. But there are some fun commander builds with this guy, but that's kind of the whole reason he's up here at number, I don't know, 11 or whatever he is. Something like that, 10 or 11. But yeah, I think this guy's actually pretty slick in that format. I like fun commander build arounds, and it's really cool that he's just 1 mana. I really like 1 mana commanders. But apart from that, we'll see how good he is in standard with Pact, and if they print anything else that you can, gift to your opponent, then maybe. But I'm just not really seeing him. But next is Cloud Planet's Champion. This guy's like all the way up here. Guys. Yeah, you can give. Ooh, that's kind of a cute. I like that idea. Mordobus, I got to credit you. You said that you can give them mobilized tokens, and you absolutely can. For a single white mana, this guy comes down on 1, play like Voice of Victory on 2. Okay. You can give them, it costs 2 mana though. The activation cost is a bit much, but still, give them a mobilized token. It's going to die EOT and then draw a card. All right. I like the way you think. I like the sauce on your sandwich. Cloud Planet's Champion is up next. 5 mana, 3, a red and a white for a 4/4 legendary human soldier mercenary. Soldier, get it? He's a soldier and a mercenary. I actually like that touch. And for what it's worth, being a merc, he's an outlaw. So that, whatever. But anyway, he's a 4/4 for 5 mana. During your turn, as long as he's equipped, he has double strike and indestructible. Equip abilities you activate that target Cloud cost 2 less to activate. Now, here's why this dude's all the way up here. This is the other like intro pack thing. I know I'm saying that wrong. It might be a welcome deck. I'm not sure, but you know what I mean. Usually those are of lower quality, to say the least. But I think that Cloud is deceptively crazy, like very, very good, actually. 5 mana is steep. If we're talking about standard, 5 mana is like actually kind of a lot, but don't we have like Swiftfoot boots in standard? I know we have Lava Spur boots in standard, but Swiftfoot boots was in foundations. So we have a couple of things in standard right now. Again, especially Swiftfoot, where like you throw Cloud down and you can immediately attach the boots to him. And then you can put the boots to them. Because like, if you can just equip the boots for free to him the turn he comes down, now he's got indestructible and you win. You don't. There's still ways to take him out. And your opponent can still like just attack around him depending on like what the positioning is like. Burn you to death, There's ways to get around it, but I still think this is like actually pretty good if you can just like freely attach the correct equipment to him the turn he comes out. And I imagine there will be like more equipment in this set. Like give me the Masamune, give me that card, some other version of the Excalibur. I know we've already got one in Magic, but still, it's something. Give me some legendary equipment, dude. Ooh, give me the spear from FF12, the Zodiac spear that you have to like not open chests to get at the end of the game. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Man, Final Fantasy is a good game. No matter which one you're talking about. But yeah, not going to belabor the point or repeat it a million times. So yeah, just get the right equipment on him and you can do that the turn he comes down and suddenly he's a boss, dude. Massive. It's like a final in-game boss. I remember the spear. I never got it. I didn't either. I didn't play enough FF12. But next is Cloud X Soldiers. Here from one cloud to another. This is 2 and Naya colors. So 5 mana for a 4/4 legendary human soldier mercenary. This time he has haste. When he enters, attach an equipment you control to him. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then, if Cloud has power 7 or greater, you get 2 treasure tokens. Ridiculous. So this, more than any legendary creature I've ever seen in my life, has got me wanting to build an equipment deck in Commander. Every time we see a supposed new equipment commander, everyone's like, is this the one? Is this the guy? And it never is. You know what I mean? But this dude, not only is he just not Boros, you know what I mean? He gives you a third color option, which I think is important. He's just insane, right? Like, am I way off base here? But, the last cloud, you want to be able to play equipment that you can attach to him the turn he comes into play. Boots and stuff like that. This, You just get to do that. It doesn't matter. It's hammer time, equip a hammer to him and get to swinging, So, and he's got haste. So like equip hammer and he swing for 14 the turn he comes out, guaranteed. But if you have like 2 other equipped dudes and suddenly he draws you 3 when he attacks, wild. Like he's going to draw you like more or less guaranteed 1 card when he attacks and sometimes ramp you too. So I don't know, man. I think just this guy's just so good. I think, again, like you can only play him in Commander. He's Commander specific, but I've never looked at an equipment guy and been like, oh yeah, I'm going to play Commander with equipments now. That has changed. That has definitely changed, man. There's too many equipments that cost like $50. Like, have you looked at Shadow Sphere lately? I don't want to pay $30 for a Shadow Sphere. Get out of here. I don't want to pay, $30 for swords. It's just so stupid. So probably going to proxy a lot of this deck, but that's why we own printers. Tifa, Martial Artist, is the newest previewed card from this set. We just got to see this like yesterday as I record this, or a couple of days back. This is an even more exciting commander for Naya people. This is a 1 in Naya colors. So 4 mana, 4/4 legendary human monk. Neat. With melee. So whenever she attacks, she's going to get +1/+1 till end of turn for each opponent that you attacked this combat. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of your turn, you get another one. So now you have an effect like this in the command zone, and we already did with Anzrag. So you could put Anzrag in the 99 of this deck, right? And so now you have a redundant effect. And I like that. Anzrag was already a really popular commander, so I imagine this will be just as or even more popular. You know what I mean? Like, it's not too hard to get this ability to pop off, even if you don't attack all 3 of your opponents, because that's the idea, right? Attack everyone else at the table, and then she gets to be a 7/7, and then suddenly she triggers her own ability. But obviously there's like a million 7-power creatures that you could play in your deck that that trigger regardless of how many people you're attacking. So Anzrag being one of them, by the way. So yes. Yeah, I imagine this will be a really popular commander. And this one too is commander specific. This is in the commander set. It has the superior set symbol, by the way. I wish that the standard set had the chocobo symbol, but instead that's the commander set symbol, because commander players are the luckiest people in the world. That's why I'm slowly becoming one of them, because we get to play stuff like this in the command zone. It's so good. That's so good. And again, this one wears the boots really well. Like anything that's going to give it haste, like a lava spur or whatever. Like, yes. You're crazy. But next is Celeste Rune Knight. Speaking of characters I love, and also just really, really cool commanders that I want to build decks around. This one is 1 in Mardu, so 4 mana for a 4/4 human wizard knight. Cool creature types and appropriate creature types if you know the lore. When Celeste enters, discard any number of cards, draw that many cards +1. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control enter, if 1 or more of them entered from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So I don't know that there are too many other cards we've seen so far that made me want to build a commander deck. And look, I know that word's coming up a lot, but that's because some of these are commander specific. You can't play Celeste in standard, but I, for one, first of all, love wheel effects. And this is in at least one color that's really good at blinking too. So I want to point that out. You blink Celeste, you get the wheel effect again, and she always at least draws you a card. Really awesome with, any reanimator effects, any mass reanimation. She's specifically really good with, living death effects and stuff like that. But there's plenty of cards that'll reanimate more than one creature at a time, right? So absolutely insane. Also, note that it's also if it was cast from a graveyard. So I think Unearth may work there. Disturb, I think, works there. There's a few things that work there. So really cool ability. You can use her when she enters the battlefield to discard stuff, and then like reanimate it later somehow. And there's even like cheap reanimation this works with, right? Like Unearth. Right, specifically not the mechanic, but the card Unearth, and Helping Hand right? Recommission and other effects like that. Cheap reanimator effects that put smaller creatures into play, but you probably want to play with a fair number of small creatures and creatures that are, capable of making other creatures. Because, let's say you have a creature that puts multiple other creatures into play, like tokens, into play when it enters. Well, now you got blink effects in your deck for Celeste. That means you can also blink your token making creatures. And when you reanimate your Sanguine Evangelist with your Unearth or whatever, now all your creatures, including Sanguine Evangelist and the bat that it created, are going to get counters when they come into play. So just, again, you kind of a interesting Mardu commander here that combines like wheeling, blinking, reanimator, and probably go wide strategies, and that's a lot of really cool stuff to combine, especially in Mardu. It's probably my favorite 3-color combination in the game of Magic. So close. If it's not Abzan, it's Mardu. So just ooh, and again, on top of Celeste being one of my favorite characters and looking awesome here. I'm gonna get me a copy of this lady, dude. Yeah, Tenacious Underdog. Yeah, Chad is coming through with them. Bloodghast, Silver Smoke Ghoul, Boom Boom. But a Grave Crawler? Is that a cast from your graveyard, or do you just play it? It comes into play from your yard. But man, Celeste could be a Magic card, and I wouldn't know. And this ability isn't once a turn too crazy. Yeah, it is not once a turn. That's a very good call right there. Just a wild Magic card when it comes to like brewing, you know what I mean? And I think it's actually going to be really, really strong, just practically too. So the great Magic card. It's well designed and I think powerful too. So love you, girl. Cecil Dark Knight, I believe standard playable card that might make mono black aggro a good deck. Finally, a single black mana for a 2/3 legendary human knight with death touch. Also has darkness. Whenever he deals damage, you lose that much life. So kind of a jackal pup situation here. Then if your starting life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, untap Cecil and transform him. He transforms into Cecil Redeemed Paladin. This is a 4/4 lifelink with protect whenever he attack. Not only does he attack, he also protect. Other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end of turn whenever this guy attacks. So that's good. That's a really good ability right there. But so is the fact that he's going to gain you some of the life that you lost back with this lifelink. That is kind of annoying though if you're trying to play, like, we just got that like vehicle Death Shadow in Ether Drift. It took me a second. But in Ether Drift we just got that like vehicle Death Shadow. And we got a couple of other cards in black that you want to lose life so that you can play them more effectively, right? So if Cecil then transforms and starts gaining your life back, you're like, hold on, buddy. Wait a minute. You know what I mean? But still practically, in practice, I mean, this should work out pretty nicely because you have paid 1 mana. Do you see how you paid 1 mana for a 4/4 lifelink? Do you see how you've done that? And there's more stuff. All your other dudes getting indestructible is wild whenever this guy attacks. So good, especially later on in a mono black aggro deck where you're attacking with a lot of like 2/1s and 3/3s, that aren't like the biggest dudes in the world. Giving them indestructible is great. So there's that. But just having a 1 mana 2/3 death touch, come on, man. It does die to Torch the Tower and Cut Down and Nowhere to Run, Virtual Persistence. Like, it dies to most played removal in the format, but it kind of needs to stay in check, because if you haven't seen a Jackal Pup type card before, like a Carnophage or a Jackal Pup itself, then like it's hard to know how good this can be in an aggro deck. Because remember, in an aggro deck, they should be losing life at a faster clip than you, so you don't really care that you're dealing damage to yourself. And then again, beyond being a 1 mana 2/3, it's actually a 1 mana 4/4, which is so crazy. So yeah, I think Cecil is standard playable, if nothing else, and I think that's going to matter. Saz's Chocoo is up next. We're actually getting into the like really good cards now. I think this is like number 4 or something like that. But Saz's Chocoo is a single green mana for a 0/1 bird with landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, Saz's Chocoo gets a +1/+1 counter. How good is that, dude? How freaking good is that? Like, that's going to be not only, I think, standard playable, but super commander playable too. You know, landfall is a very popular strategy in that environment. And yeah, I think if you're building landfall, it's just kind of like auto include in commander. But maybe I'm wrong on that end. Maybe if you draw it on turn 8, it's just like not good enough. But by turn 8, you're getting, 4 landfall triggers a turn. So like maybe it's okay. Maybe no matter when you draw it, it's fine. But still, I think that this is just really good there. But it is standard playable. And I think it's great there, especially along with like Iridescent Vine Lasher. Now you have like 8 1-drops in your landfall deck, and by turn 3, this is a 2/3 or something like that. Turn 4, it's 3/4. Just gets larger as the game goes on. And even though those stats don't sound like super incredible, they are pretty good considering you only paid 1 mana for the freaking thing in terms of like investment for eventual payoff. Yeah, I love 1-drops that grow throughout the game. I love 1-drops that aren't just terrible after turn 3, and Chocobo's great, especially if you are like land ramping, like suddenly this becomes really, really, really good. And even kind of aggro, it makes like a turn 2 Glimpse the Core feel a little bit better. You can now attack with a 2-power creature on turn 2 instead of just Glimpse the Core, so seems good. Seem real good, baby. But next, we're going to look at him itself, Unsundered. Maybe one of the more powerful commanders in the set, but I don't necessarily want to brew it. I just think that it's very powerful. I mean, just restate the obvious here. 3 mana, 1 in Dimir for a 2/4 legendary Elder Wizard with Vigilance. Whenever him itself enters or attacks, draw a card and then discard a card. So enters or attacks, you get to loot. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your yard, you may transform him itself. It becomes Hades, Sorcerer of Eld. It's a 6/6 legendary avatar with Vigilance. Also has Echo of the Lost. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard, but if a card or token would be put into your yard from anywhere, exile it instead. So what you have here is a very easy to get Yawgmoth's Will on legs that just last forever. You can't play cards from your yard during any opponent's turn. It's only during your turn. Still wild. This is, by the way, standard playable. I just want to throw that out there. You can play this card in standard. I don't know that you should, but, to sort of support the standard theory, this is unboltable, unvirtua persistentable, unnowhere to runnable, untorch the towerable, uncut downable at 3 mana. And those are all pretty important metrics to hit. Did I say unnowhere to runnable? Maybe I did. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't get hit by a lot of important removal in the environment. So I guess there's that to point out. Vigilance is random, but Vigilance is always okay. It has an enters ability, so it's always going to give you some value. It fuels itself by both entering and attacking, and I kind of like that. It's not too hard to get 14 in your yard. It's not going to happen super duper early, but we've already seen Oculus decks that get like 8 cards in their yard by turn 2 or whatever it is, depending on what the situation is. But we do have Picklock Prankster and, all kinds of other cards that can mill us very fast in standard right now. So I do kind of think 14 cards is not that many necessarily. And once you do have 14 cards, suddenly your hand expands by 14 cards. You know what I mean? Like, it's once you have flipped this over, you have to remember you had 14 cards in your graveyard. You had 14 cards. So now your hand consists of whatever was in your hand and 14 other cards. So, yeah, Jace, self-mill 15, bingo, bango, flip it over. So, yeah, man. Yeah. I think there's like there could be a deck for it in standard, but, you eyes toward Commander, where I still think it's like fairly easy to fill your graveyard very fast, right? You still have lots of options. And then suddenly, it's freaking Yawgmoth's Will on a stick. It's better than a corn dog, as far as things that come on a stick. I'll take this. Well, I'll probably take the corn dog. But I like this too. Next is Zeld Dinked. This is number 2. if I'm not mistaken. This card is wild. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a 0/3 legendary human monk. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Zeld gets +1/+0 for each land you control. At the beginning of your end step, return a land you control to its owner's hand. So this can be your landfall commander if you want to be restricted to, red landfall stuff. You probably don't, but that means it probably goes in the 99 of a lot of landfall decks, though. You know what I mean? Anything playing like Dragonback Assault, any Teamer landfall decks. This is phenomenal in. But you can play this in standard, and effects that say you can play an additional land on your turn are sometimes very playable. We've got some in standard, like Loot, the 3 mana Loots, and the 3 mana mono green Loot is in standard, doesn't see too much play. So that in and of itself isn't going to make the card see play. However, along with certain rampy stuff, and especially Awaken the Woods being a standard playable card, then suddenly I think Zeld gets much, much better. You can make his power actually great. And obviously, returning a land to your hand every turn just helps your landfall deck, So like that about him, but once you leave standard, go to commander again. I think this is just such a spicy card in the 99, dude. Such a good card in the 99. Yeah, some mountain drop synergy exists in past cards. That's true. That's true. Some cards want you to drop mountains specifically. So neat little dude here that I'm going to put at number 2, because I think he's just not only an auto include in landfall decks, but could actually kind of cook in standard if things are just right, So I just kind of like a lot about this dude, and I like the FF8 reference. I can't wait to see the Ultimecia card. I think they have a problem, because I've run into this problem doing a couple of videos that I'm writing right now, where there's too many spellcasters in Final Fantasy. I know we're playing Magic, but how many ways can you represent spellcasters? So you got to do Ultimecia and Vivi and Lulu and Terra and Strago. Do you see how we're... It's what do all these different wizards do? Although I've made both a Terra and a Strago card, and I actually think you can do really cool stuff. Strago kind of casts your opponent's spells, right? Because that's what Strago does. He's got the enemy skill blue magic thing going on. And then Tella can eventually cast Meteor. Once you cast enough spells, you've learned enough, right? Tella has advanced enough as a mage because you've cast enough spells. Now he can cast Meteor. Problem is Meteor kills everything. So, I think there's cool ways you can make different spellcasters, but I think you might run into a thing where it's what do Palom and Porum do? And what does Tella do? They're both wizards. What do they do? You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry. This is number 1. It's Ishtolah, Knight's Bless. So 4 mana, 1 in Esper for a 2/4 legendary cat warlock with vigilance. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Ishtolah deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life, son. So, okay. This is at the beginning of each end step, not just your end step. So regardless of whether or not you triggered Ishtolah a bunch of times during an opponent's turn, let's say that, Brian attacked Samantha for 5 damage and Samantha took that damage and it had absolutely nothing to do with you. You still draw a card, which is, that seems pretty decent. Let's say that, Olivia flings a creature at Robert. Cool. I'll draw my card, EOT, but it's just amazing that it triggers each end step. That's nuts. But this ability here, guys, this right here, okay, so kind of I was going to say Magecraft, but Magecraft is, instants or sorceries. This is non-creature spell. So Ishtolah can go in your enchantments deck. Ishtolah can go in your artifacts deck, and that's cute because, you're casting artifact, let's say you're casting 3 mana rock. Then you can tap the 3 mana rock to help you cast another non-creature spell. And that means that you'll draw the card easier because it was easier to cast 2 spells and trigger her twice and deal 4 to somebody. Do you see what I'm getting at? So that's awesome. She just goes in spell slinging decks too, right? Just say Up the Beanstalk in standard too. I should point this out. There's a lot of ways with Up the Beanstalk to cast a 5 mana card without actually paying 5 mana, right? And there's a lot of ways to do it with 3 mana cards as well. Like, pretty obviously, you can plot, and that's just one way. You can foretell things, I guess, but there's a lot of ways to effectively cast things for free or reduced cost and, still trigger Ishtolah. So wild. You just throw in damage around, you're gaining life. So if you have stuff that triggers when you gain life, Ishtolah's kind of neat for that too, right? But I love a good old Esper burn card, and this goes well in the 99 of a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff goes well in the 99 of it. There's a really popular commander that's like, whenever you cast like an artifact or something, you get a 1/1 fairy. I forget exactly what this card is right now, but any other day of the week, I have to remember the card. I literally just saw it yesterday. Starts with an A. I'm forgetting it, but one way or the other. This works really well in the 99 of that, or again, vice versa. There's just a lot of fun stuff in Esper, especially all the non-creature nonsense you can get up to in Esper colors. Like, you're going to be triggering her all the time. It's not a once a turn thing. It's not restricted to any time, any number of times a turn. It triggers on your opponent's turns too. Just like, it triggers off counter spells and removal spells and, again, mana rocks and enchantments. What a card. Planeswalkers. What a freaking magic card this is right here. Is there actually a card after this? Is there actually? Oh, it's side quest to catch a fish. Huh. Well, I guess we'll review that in just a second. But Ishtolah, guys, she is only commander playable. This is not a standard playable card, but I still have this as like my number one card we've seen so far because, I want to brew around her. There's a couple of cards I want to brew around more in commander, but as far as like acknowledging power level, there are CEDH players who are already like going cuckoo bananas over this lady. And you see, everybody likes a cat lady in a goth dress, you know what I mean? But it's because of her actual function that people are going wild. Just, what a magic card, dude. What a freaking magic card, baby. But Cooking Campsite and Side Quest to Catch a Fish. We'll finish off with these. I actually had this at around number 10. This card keeps going up the more that I think about it. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top of your library. If it's an artifact or a creature, you may reveal it, put it into your hand. If you put a card into your hand this way, create a food and transform this into Cooking Campsite. It's a land that taps for a white. You can also pay 3, tap it, and sack it to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control at sorcery speed. So, and you got Prompto over here cooking a fit. Well, no. Maybe it is. Anyway. What's the other guy's name? Prompto, Gladiololis, Noctis, and then the smart guy. The smart guy that cooks. Somebody in chat will tell me his name. Anyway, kind of looks like Egon. He's the Egon of the group from Ghostbusters. Ignis, thank you. First time chat from Nisi. It is Ignis, thank you. It's been a while. But anyway, side quest, catch a fish. So it looks kind of not good, because it doesn't do anything the turn you play it. And if you screw up, it doesn't do anything for multiple turns after you play it. And that's not good. Like next turn, you spend your whole turn 3. I'm talking about in standard. You spend your whole turn 3 casting this when you could have cast the Takassi's Welcome, Enduring Innocence, or Caretaker's Talent. You could have cast any of those cards. You spend turn 3 casting this. And then turn 4, you look at the top card of your library. It's a land. Nothing happens. You didn't catch a fish. However, that said, we have Maze Mind Tome in standard. And mono white decks are already kind of keen on playing for Maze Mind Tome. So if you have Maze Mind Tome in play, you can scry. On the end of your opponent's turn, you can scry, and during your upkeep, while this triggers on the stack, you can scry again if you absolutely need to. So you have 2 looks at getting another artifact or a creature. And if you're playing 4 Maze Mind Tomes, that increases your chances of finding an artifact on top of your library, right? So I think this works like extremely, incredibly well with that card, and might work well in like an Ugin deck too, because Ugin plays 4 Maze Mind Tomes, and Ugin plays a ton of artifacts. So, and Ugin wants to ramp too, right? Ugin wants to ramp because Ugin himself costs 7 mana. And this is effective ramp. If you can get this on turn 4, if you play it on 3, and then on turn 4, you flip it over, it flips over untapped. So you have a white card that ramps you. Like a white ramp piece on turn 4. So that's 5 mana on turn 4. That ramps you into a Sunfall. Right? You know, like, okay. That's not bad. If you don't get your land drop for the turn, this is effectively your land drop for that turn too. So, and you might not. Like, if you're looking to draw a land for your land drop, well, you kind of don't want to draw a land. So if you are scrying with Mazemind Tome, it makes it a little bit more palatable to put a Mazemind Tome or a creature on top and not get your land drop, because Cooking Campsite will functionally be your land drop for that turn. So, like, that is a thing you want to point out too. There's some cool lines with this, for sure, in Standard. And the +1/+1 counter on all your guys is, like, not... This could have just been ramp. You know, like, this just being an extra ability to give all your Fountain Port tokens or whatever, like, +1/+1, sure, you know, it's just not that bad. It's really not, but you really do run the risk of doing nothing with this for a couple of turns, and that's not good. But, you know, let's say that you do get a land on top of your library on the next turn. Well, you know, just cast, like, Day of Judgment, and then you should have a couple more turns to catch the fish. You know what I mean? So... you find the Beeza on top of your library or something. So yeah, it could be good. I think actually the achievement to unlock with this is to, you know, play it on turn 3, not have your 4th land drop, play it on turn 3, and then reveal Beeza from the top of your library the next turn. It's like, that's a big fish right there. And then the Beeza, flavorfully, will put fish into play. Do you understand? That's let's do that in Standard. Anyway, I guess that concludes all the Final Fantasy stuff we've seen so far. We'll see some more cards. Ooh, unless you have Artifact Lands. Bacantha, that is a wonderful idea right there. Thinking with your whole brain. I like it. But anyway, man, yeah, I think this is actually a fine Magic card, I guess is the conclusion. But we're going to see more cards here coming up this week. And I cannot freaking wait. But I already think the set is kind of shaping up a little bit hype. You know what I mean? I'm going to be hyped for it no matter what. But there are some good-looking, standard playable Magic cards in the set, and a few commanders. Like, I'm going to get on EDA Trek and brew around Celeste, like, tonight. How much is Celeste? If I'm going to buy a copy of Celeste, is there, like, a price on her right now? Celeste Rune Knight. 45. Oh, my God. Can't wait till this set comes out and this thing is like $5. It's going to be much more acceptable. Never buy cards on pre-sale. But anyway, God, probably she won't be $5. I bet Celeste's like a $20 card. I bet she is, dude. But anyway, that's all we've got for this part of the stream. But there'll be more stream. It's all we've got for this particular YouTube video. So if you are watching on YouTube, do all the YouTube stuff, hit the button shaped like a thumb. You can check out the subscribe feature. I hear it's fun to do that. I hear YouTube's... Actually, I don't want to say that. I hear YouTube sends you things, but then am I going to get like sued when they don't? I don't know. But anyway, aside from that, you can check out the Patreon. We have a Patreon page. Most people say Patreon. I think it's better to say Patreon. I think that's how they want you to say it. Either way, you can... The link in the description. It's just $1 a month to vote on content, and it just keeps the lights on around here. It supports the channel in ways you don't understand. Seriously, I wouldn't be able to do this without them. So thank you if you are a Patreon person. If you're considering becoming one, you're awesome. Just take the lead, man. It's $1 a month. I'm worth $1 a month. Come on. I provide so much value to people's lives. Or none. It's one or the other, and I'm not actually sure which one it is, but it's give me $1 a month. Either way, that's all for this YouTube video. If you're watching on stream, keep watching, because we're going to play some Cotus in Brawl. That's going to be fun. But anyway, love you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll catch you cats later. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.